Do I have to show this one? No. Okay. 6 of us.
Guy right here, this dinosaur is called the iguanodon. Keep that in mind because I'll be asking you again when we get to our first site. And his back foot has 3 toes. That'll also be important for our first site. Dinosaurs here at Dinosaur Ridge because we actually discovered the very first one in the world here in 1877. And so they just kind of casually started adapting that term into their scientific literature. Because I mean, at that point they had no other words to use, so they're like, we'll just use Gary Larson's claim. So that's Gary Larson's second claim to fame, and it just goes to show us that if you're funny enough and clever enough, and scientists have no other options, they'll just use your funny made-up words, which actually happens a lot in science. And all this show correlates to when the Western Interior Seaway came through the western inside of the United States 100 million years ago. And all of this shale was the ooey gooey muddy seafloor of this ancient seaway. Because of that, we find things in here like marine fossils, things like fish scales and bits of fish skeleton, marine plants, and in some cases sandstone. And if you want to picture us on something like the Magic School Bus coming up out of the water and onto the beach, that's kind of what we did. And you'll notice that the sandstone has ripples in it. So these ripples are symmetrical, meaning they look like this themselves under the sand on this beach. And lastly, the sandstone tells us a lot about what the climate was like because we actually get plant impressions through here. Specifically the impressions of mangrove roots from mangrove trees. And mangroves are trees that grow in warm, swampy, tropical climates. Think of places like Florida, Louisiana, and the southern United States. The rest would be underwater. This would have been a beach. It would have been very slimy, muggy, and smelly. And it would have been very hot and very humid. Our tracks here found 3 different dinosaurs and 1 lonely crocodile. It was originally discovered in the 1930s when a construction crew was building a road to Red Rocks. The original plan was just to kind of cut through and blast this all straight through. But as they were blowing this rock up, they realized that there were dinosaur footprints in the rock. So rather than continuing to blow it up, they decided to preserve it for future generations so we can thank those guys in spirit for doing that for us. So everything on the other side of the ridge is 100 million year old Cretaceous rock. Everything on this side of the ridge is 150 million year old Jurassic rock. So welcome to the real Jurassic Park. So you guys see how that kind of works? One of the reasons it's not as defined as the other tracks is because you can imagine stepping down in the sand underneath you is going to expand to some point. So that's why they're not as defined. However, we do see that this dinosaur took a step here, and here, and then presumably kept going that direction. So Patasaurus is a sauropod or long-necked dinosaur from the Jurassic. It's most commonly represented in media like Jurassic Park. Littlefoot from Land Before Time is an Apatosaurus as well. So that gives you an idea of how big fossil sits in some relative direction to another one. And about 80 to 90% of our fossil record is relatively age-dated with very few knowns in between. How we get what's an exact age is rivers and streams are flowing through Colorado. And if you want to picture them as like a spiderweb network of interweaving brazen streams, that's what this whole area looked like. And that's important because of the dinosaur. This comes from someone's vertebra. Do you guys know where your vertebra is? All you youngins? So it's part of your backbone, right? Over here we have another vertebra. This one looks a little funny because of a few reasons. Firstly, we're looking at it from a side profile versus a bird's eye profile like the other one. The other reason it looks goofy is because it comes from a Camarasaurus. So, as a long-necked dinosaur, you could imagine your ischium is where your tailbone connects to your hip bone. And sauropods and long-necked dinosaurs, they have 2 different bones. Us humans also have 2 different bones, and that's effectively what makes it. So those are all Pangea rocks, which is pretty cool. With that, as we head back to the visitor center, does anyone have any other comments, questions, concerns about anything dinosaur related, geology related, or Colorado related? Alright, so keep in mind during dinosaur time, all of